The leader of the House, the Speaker of the House, rather, Lori Jenkins in Olympia, a Democrat, tells the Seattle Times, quote, "There will be new taxes." I guess apparently no matter what Governor Bob Ferguson says. Let's talk about it in our segment, Unbelievable. All right, so just as a reminder, Bob Ferguson came out this week and he said he's not going to sign the Democrats' budget. He is not going to sign, the Democrats' budget in the House. He's not going to sign the Democrats' budget in the Senate because he says it relies on way too much taxes, including a wealth tax that he doesn't even know will hold up. Here's a clip.
Neither budget, however, is close to one that I can sign for two key reasons. First, they each propose far too much in taxes. Second, they both rely on a wealth tax, which is novel, untested, difficult to implement, and, most importantly, for purposes of adopting a sustainable budget, will face an immediate challenge in court.
So as I said yesterday, the fact that he didn't rule out the other taxes, especially this late in the legislative session with just weeks to go, tells me he'll support them. Which sucks because you're talking about the largest property tax increase in our state's history, one that has no limit, which will be devastating for families. It's almost like it was like dangle the wealth tax. Everybody's like, wealth tax, that's a crazy, crazy idea. But slip in the property tax, which will devastate people. Guys, I just see him, I don't see them backing away from it. I really don't, especially since he took the wealth tax off the table. And really, the property tax is worse than the wealth tax. Property tax impacts far more people with far less of an ability to pay for it. I mean, the wealth tax would take some economic boost out of the state. I don't want any of them. And then also the B&O tax increase, absolutely they're going to pass that thing. And then the question is the payroll tax in Seattle. That was devastating and continues to be devastating for Seattle's economy, spreading it statewide. Why would you take a failed tax that has devastated the economy in the state's largest city and think that it would do any better anywhere else? So House Speaker Lori Jenkins was quoted by the Seattle Times saying this: in case you had any doubt, there will be tax increases. It's figuring out this kind of balance and making sure that we're able to minimize any harm when it comes to regular, everyday Washingtonians. Interesting. If you wanted to minimize any harm when it comes to regular, everyday Washingtonians, you certainly wouldn't be pushing a massive property tax increase. How are you going to spin that one? They want people to focus on the wealth tax and the B&O tax and the payroll tax, because the least popular of all the options is, of course, going to be the property tax increase. And, I don't know the extent to which. It's hard because we know about it. You know about it. You're telling your friends and family about it. But then you've got all these people, millions of people who are just going about their day-to-day life like da-da-da-da-da. And the check comes. They're like, oh, that's weird. My property taxes are higher than they were. And they just keep going about their day-to-day life and they just don't get engaged and they don't care. And so there's just not enough pushback to get Democrats to wake up or to get them out of office. So the other thing, and it just shows like what is the word what is the word I'm looking for? The ego. The ego of these Democrats. And they really do feel untouchable. So I mentioned on the show yesterday that 60 of our state's largest employers penned a letter after Bob Ferguson's press conference to the leaders of the House and the Senate, including House Speaker Lori Jenkins. And on that letter were the who's who's of Washington businesses, including Weyerhaeuser. So Speaker Lori Jenkins, in this interview with the Seattle Times, took umbrage with that, with Weyerhaeuser's name being on this letter, basically saying, hey, you might force us out of state and force us to relocate jobs if you pass these taxes. Jenkins said, this from the Seattle Times, she also said it was, quote, interesting that Weyerhaeuser signed on to the letter, considering the company previously met with her and told her it would never leave Washington. She said, quote, it would be kind of shocking to all of a sudden hear them threaten that they're going to leave or something like that over a B&O rate. So she's telling the Times, think about this for a second. She's telling the Times, well, that would be that's interesting they signed that letter because they met with me and they said they'd never leave the state. And she poo-poos it instead of thinking, well, maybe our proposals are really that bad. Like if a company that had told you, Speaker, that they'd never leave the state is now signing on to a letter saying they might have to leave the state. And you take it as, oh, they're full of hot air. As opposed to take it seriously like, oh, these taxes are that bad that a company that told us it was dedicated to the state is rethinking that dedication. It's the hubris. It's the ego of it. Like, no, they won't leave. They won't leave. Look what's happening in Seattle. $47 million lower revenue than expected in 2024 because of their payroll tax. And don't act as if the B&O tax increase is only going to impact big businesses. It's not. It's going to impact small businesses as well. It's absolutely wild. So I am becoming increasingly concerned. As we discussed, everybody's got their lobbyists in Olympia lobbying on their behalf, which they should. Businesses should have people down there in the ear on all these bills, trying to get them to do the right thing, but no one's down there lobbying for you. So I just feel like people are going to get the short end of the stick again, because as she said, there will be new taxes. The question is which one or which ones. If I was a betting woman, which I am, I would say they're going to pass the B&O tax increase. They're going to pass a pared-down version of the payroll tax, and they're going to pass the property taxes. I think that they'll do three of them. So I hope I'm wrong, but they are far too proud to back away from their proposals now, and they are not interested, completely uninterested in cutting spending. They continue to push this lie that if they cut spending, the state will crumble. If they reduce the size of government, we simply will not be able to exist, while they fund things like laser hair removal for transgender inmates. Give me a break.